personally, and so many people can relate to struggling with food the last couple years, especially the last couple months, and that whole idea of things are going well and now I'm into the emotional eating and it feels like I'm back to square one. You said need.
Right.
And how when we feel that we need the food, and I sometimes talk about that like primitive, it almost feels primal, like oh, we can't say no, Cookie Monster kind of thing. When we need, it really does show that there's an imbalance with our relationship with food. And for me, it's about feeling seen, feeling heard, knowing what my needs are and caring for my needs, and then intimacy in relationships, being able to communicate my needs and get my needs met. And I think oftentimes with food, I relate again, like I said, I'm chomping at the bit. You were talking about the Big Mac, like using the Big Mac, you thought it was self-love, perhaps.
Right.
In the past. And so, we feel like we're caring well for ourselves. And that was my story too. For me, I was in grad school studying nutrition of all things, right? And going to the school cafeteria every single day, buying, at least once a day, a bar of dark chocolate. And even at that time, my metabolism, wasn't what it was. And I obviously gained weight because you can't not when you're eating a bar of dark chocolate every single day. I mean, we're talking a whole bar. And for me, that dark chocolate was the way that I was dealing with my emotions. It was the way I was meeting my needs, although it's a hindsight is 2020 situation because I did not know at the time, right?
Right.
Yeah. And what's interesting is looking back, I can see how I was trying to deal with the stress and anxiety, the performance anxiety, my type A personality, tied back to childhood, right? Like all that stuff by eating the chocolate, because it numbed the discomfort of the stress. And so eventually when I numbed, instead of dealing with my feelings and caring for myself and identifying my needs, right? Like having that intimate relationship with myself, food allowed me to escape that, but I didn't escape the consequences. I ended up with severe anxiety, some really scary panic attacks, right? Because I wasn't dealing with the emotion. I was using food to numb it and quiet it. So we think it's self-love, but ultimately there's consequences. And there's some great research around this, around what happens with emotional repression. And it's so fascinating to me when you look at the list of things that are tied to not dealing with your emotions. And I'm sure these are things you ladies are talking about all the time, right? Is things like fatigue and, even blood sugar imbalance, obesity, thyroid issues. Like really, it can be when we're not dealing with our emotions, that stress really, because it's kind of viewed as stress in our body, has to go somewhere, and it kind of turns inward on ourselves. And so, but the thing that's frustrating to me, and I wonder, how you two feel about this, is the solution to having any sort of eating struggle is that all or nothing dieting. You either do something perfectly, right? You follow it perfectly, the yes foods, the no foods, the tracking, the thises and the thatas, or what's even the point? Restart, try again later. You ate one cookie, I didn't want any cookies, might as well have 5. And so that all or nothing dieting, I just want to put out there for anyone who's struggling with eating issues, they often think I need to get this under control. I need to control my eating, but that's really not the solution.
I have a story about that. I was trying to lose weight and even sign up to one of these things, to sign up. And I was at a place and they had all these beautiful cookies. And so I went and grabbed one and it fell on the floor. And so then I went and grabbed another one, fell on the floor. And by the third one, finally, I said, okay, God, I got it. But what that actually taught me, and because I was in a period where I was doing so much that I was eating fast.
Food works better than Xanax. Direct quote.
Can you say that again?
Food works better than Xanax. If you feel like food, you eat it and you feel better. If you notice that in the moment, that's one way that emotional eating can manifest. It's not the only way. And it's not necessarily like you experience that all the time, but maybe you know that you're stressed, or you know it's been a hard day and you think, I need a reward. I'm going to go to Dairy Queen. I'm going to get a Blizzard. And I'm going to get, medium because the small's tiny. Have you seen it?
Right. Cassie, you're calling me out.
Oh,
my emotional eating is a hamburger Happy Meal. That's
yeah.
I think it makes the whole world better.
Right. Yes. And there you go. It makes the whole world better. Like, you immediately feel better. You feel calmer.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a better therapist and all.
Yeah, amazing. So that's one way people can recognize. And the thing I want to say about that real quickly is, like, thank God that there is a way to feel better in the moment. Like that emotional eating, and even in any time of emotional eating, is a survival mechanism that allows us to feel better. And especially over the last couple of years, we've needed it. Like, everyone has needed that help and support. So, I think we can have a lot of compassion for ourselves when we end up there, because we are trying to care for our needs. Like, we do, it is almost a way of loving ourselves. It's just perhaps misguided.
Right, because it's like you said, it's at the moment.
Yes, in the moment. The second way that emotional eating shows up, and I want to make sure I say this because some people out there are going, everything you're saying I'm tracking with, except I don't think I feel better when I eat. Using food to zone out or escape. So this is Netflix at 8 p.m. with a bag of something.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Am I calling you out again? Right? Like,
it feels so good.
It does. And it's so interesting to me. And I hear this all the time, like, if I had $1, right? Like, people will say, well, it's just a habit. It's just a habit that I need to kick. It has nothing to do with food. It has nothing to do with my emotions. It's just a habit. I'm full at dinner. It's just a habit. And the reality is, so one thing is, it could just be you're not getting enough energy during the day. And a lot of people aren't eating a lot during the day. And so their body is sending these signals, even though their stomach might be full, you haven't had enough. So that could be part of it. So I always work to correct that first with people. But the second piece is, when you're watching TV, when you're scrolling, for me, I do this, I escape with cozy murder mystery novels. Okay, there's my guilty pleasure. I just told everyone. When you're doing these things, and eating is part of that, you're escaping from feeling. You may not even know what it is you're numbing. Because that all or nothing dieting as well, it disconnects us from our bodies. Because we're not listening to our body's cues of when we're hungry or when we're full. We're relying on, apps or meal plans or the scale. And the antidote to the all or nothing dieting is finding the courage to trust yourself again, to trust yourself around food, to trust you can, eat healthily most of the time and mindfully indulge sometimes, to trust that you're worthy of that self-care. That's a big one, huh? The 4-part methodology, the first thing we need to do is calm the nervous system. Anyone else stressed and overwhelmed out there? Right? And that stress and that overwhelm really does lead to more eating and more of that, like, primal compulsive eating. So when we can calm the nervous system down, you can start to make space and really think about how you're actually feeling and what your needs are. And then the second pillar of this Courage to Trust methodology is self-compassion. Self-compassion. And what self-compassion does is it allows you to be kind to yourself, so that you're not kicking yourself when you're down in your mind for, making the choices you make. And then it allows you to be mindful. It's a tool that you can use to safely notice your feelings and let them move through you and dissipate, so that you're not stuck eating them all the time. And then the third piece is to listen to yourself. So that's really undoing the damage from that all or nothing dieting, learning what your hunger cues are, your satiety cues are, listening to what your needs are, asking for help when you need it. And to me, that's what ties into intimacy, like we were talking at the top here. And then the last piece is, a lot of the women I work with are concerned about their weight. And while I am body positive and I help them accept where they're at, I also accept them as they are. I also want to meet them where they're at and help them, care for themselves and maintain or lower weight in a way that that's really supportive to their health and not, harmful, like all or nothing dieting. So metabolism boosting is the fourth piece. And so with all of that, my one tip, back to the question at hand, to learn to trust yourself around food is, and this is going to be really practical, is you need to eat regularly. You need to eat enough, and you need to eat regularly.